Hey, it's Dina here. Just getting some things pulled up quick. If you're curious, the song playing is by Frank Edwards. It's called Under the Canopy. Great song, great song. Just trying to pull something up quick. Okay. All right, so hey, this is Dina. Coming on live for, I think, the first time on my page. I was trying to do it on my computer, but it's not working. So if the phone's shaking, it's because I'm holding it. So anyways, I thought I would just come on because I got a memory from Facebook today from 8 years ago, and it was just so fitting. It was just so fitting for today. Hey Gerald, thanks for joining. So obviously we all know the current situation and with Corona and the physical distancing and all that, but I saw this memory from 8 years ago, and like I said, it was just fitting to today, but also it was just fitting to the many things that I've talked about what's the balance between social media and what we take in for really the peace and health of our own mind. So I said, look, I'm going to get on. I don't got nothing on my face. I probably look tired, but I felt very called to get on. So I said, hey, I'm going to obey today. I'm going to obey and do what it is I'm supposed to do. So this is what the quote says. 8 years ago, April 3rd, I shared this at 10 in the morning. It says, you must constantly ask yourself these questions. Who am I around? What are they doing for me? What have they got me reading? What have they got me saying? Where do they have me going? What do they have me thinking? And most importantly, what do they have me becoming? Then ask yourself the big question, is that okay? And this is a quote by Jim Rohn. So I just think in this time it's so important. The title of the thing is called Emotional Distancing. My coach challenged us today to, as much as we're doing physical distancing, we need to think about how are we protecting ourselves emotionally. And so at the end of the year last year, I got off social media and we did a fast, like similar to many churches. We did a 21-day fast at the start of the year. And this was the first time I've done the fast in this way, where we were really focused on prayer for 21 days. We were waking up at 3 in the morning. We were doing lunchtime prayers. We were doing evenings at church. And so I would say this is the year that I've actually done a fast where I felt I really challenged myself and that I would say, consecrated myself to be able to hear what it is God wants to speak to me. So I've been off social media for a few months now, and I've never felt better. And I love social media. I love seeing what people are doing. I like the Instagram, the Facebook. I like those things. And so, but getting off of social media helped me to really focus on what type of messages I receive and how I let them really internalize within myself. There's a lot of negativity going on. There's a lot of opinions. There's a lot of, hey, people should be doing this and people shouldn't be doing that. And there's just so much going on. And so one of the things I believe that we really have to do is make sure that we know how information affects us. We have to know how we take in that information and how it affects us internally. So obviously for a lot of things, we can affect what's happening externally, but we can definitely control what's happening internally. And I've talked about it before. I think one of the key things that I always recommend to people, if they're like, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm comparing myself to people, I'm just caught up in a lot of overthinking and all of that, the first thing I always ask is, who do you follow? Facebook, Instagram, all of the social medias, who do you follow? It could be, who do you follow in group chats? It could be, who do you follow for blogs? Anything. So who do you follow? I always recommend unfollow accounts that either they trigger you to compare yourself, or they just don't add positivity to how you need to manage your day. You know what I mean? If you're going to spend so much time on your phone anyways, why take in so much information from people that aren't helping you to have that peace of mind? I always tell people complain about what they see, and I'm like, you have 100% control over what you see on social media, 100%. Facebook even allows you to unfollow people where you don't even have to let them know you're not friends. You can just unfollow them so you don't have to see their messages. I mean, you can do that on Instagram as well. So I just don't think there's an excuse for you to complain about what you see, because we have control over that. So that's the first thing I always tell people is clean out your follow list, clean out your subscribe list, anything where you're taking in information, clean it out and make sure that it's a representation of what you want to see. Another thing I do is turning off notifications. I don't get notifications on my phone for any social media. I have to get on social media to see any messages or any replies, etc. And I think that just helps with not having to check your phone all the time. I think having notifications off also makes sure that you're not touching your phones. You know, when you see that, hey, you got a notification, hey, you got a message, you're more prone to check it. And so I think that also just helps us not be so responsive to the messages we're getting when we have our notifications off. So another thing I like to do is set aside time for how much time you're going to allow yourself to be on social media. So instead of just getting on every time you feel like it, set an hour at lunchtime or set 2 hours in the evening. Shoot, set 3 hours if you feel like that's what you need, but set time aside so that you're not so always on your phone, like checking everything. I think we get in the habit of just checking things and then we're overwhelmed, and it's like, of course you're overwhelmed. You're on your phone all the time. You're taking in so much information. Hey, Keish, good to see you. So I just think you have to set limitations on how much information you're taking in. I say every time, but in this time, definitely protecting your peace of mind, protecting your sanity, your internal peace is so important to get through everything that we're getting through. I think I have an issue with it because I care so much about people and I want to know what's going on and I want to check in and I want to be informed. But I've realized that causes more stress than it helps. So I just make sure that have a designated time that I'm actually on the social media. So also, utilize the tools that you have. I have an iPhone, so I can see how much time I'm spending on Facebook. I can see how much time I'm spending on social media and all of that. And I think that's just the accountability tool to say, hey, I say I don't have time, but I just spent 5 hours a day on social media this week. That's a lot, that's a lot. And so to me, that's a lot for me personally, and maybe a lot for you is a different number, but you have to decide that. But again, we're talking about if you feel overwhelmed and you're realizing how much time you spend on your phone, you have to change it if you really want to change the feeling that you're having. And then the last thing I usually tell people is just take a break altogether. So like I said, I took a social media break and I take them often. And I don't mind it. I get off. It just reminds me how addicting it really is. Even though I love it, it can get very, very addicting. And so it just reminds me like, hey, there's a life outside of social media. I can do other things, while not being on it. So again, just really felt in my heart, my spirit to just get on. I really don't like lives, y'all. I really don't like being on video, but I am working on myself on being more obedient and not hesitating when I have something that I know will be valuable to people to share. So my hope for you guys, I just want to get on here quick and just remind you guys that in this time of a lot of information, you don't have to take everything in. You really, really don't. In order to keep your inner peace, in order not to be so overwhelmed, because let me tell you, I'm the type that I've dealt with overwhelm. I deal and have to fight with the overthinking and the spiral thinking. It's like you start on one thought and then you think another thought and another one, and then by the time you know it, you're in a deep pit in your head, right? That you're just like, how did I get here? I went from feeling okay to feeling like the world is ending tomorrow. And so I just think it's so important for us to just guard our minds because there's so much information and it's happening so consistently and constantly that I just feel like after all of this, my hope for everybody is that you can come out with a little bit more peace internally because we can't change what's happening externally. We can't change that, but we can definitely manage how it is we're taking in the information and what we're doing with it. So again, I just wanted to put that out there, just sprinkle a little bit of maybe peace into some people who've been feeling overwhelmed because I've been sensing it from a lot of people I've been talking about. And so for some people during this time, look, you're not going to start a business, you're not going to write a book, but if you can keep your peace during this time, if you can keep your emotional sanity in this time, if you can keep some hope alive for the world and the people, I think that is that in itself is powerful. Okay, so that's all I got. I just want to say hello, and hopefully I'll challenge myself to do more lives. But for now, I just like I said, I just hope you guys just take a moment, take a breather. Don't allow so much information in. Allow yourself to not be part of it and worry about what you need to keep that peace within yourself. So if you have any other suggestions of things you do to help with your overwhelm, you can share it. I'll keep this up and then we'll just continue the conversation as we go. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Have a good night.